Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 11 kilometers per second, the speed at which something must move in order to escape Earth's gravity. I am your host, Mackins Audina, and I am here to spread with you the lessons that I am learning in hopes that we can go on a journey to achieve what we are set out here on the earth to achieve, and that is to reach our potential, to go out and capitalize on the talents that we are given, on the experience that we have, and to meet all the challenges and to live fully this game of life and leave it feeling proud of, our time here, feeling satisfied, feeling happy about this joyride. So, what do I want to talk to you about today? Consistency. Consistency is what I want to talk about today. A couple of things, just scroll quickly. The things that hold you back are fear of judgment from others. The two biggest. There are a lot of different ones that I'm going to talk about. And consistency, being consistent or lack of consistency is part of it. And there is some reasons for that. But in any case, the second biggest thing that I focus on is, our addiction to comfort, or our biological need to avoid anything that could cause pain and therefore the potential of not surviving this thing, right? Our biggest desire is to make sure that we survive this thing. And so there is a balance that we're striking, both on one end, understanding that we're not going to die. And, for most of the things that, that we do now, there are folks who, came before us, who set the structure for us. We have to always be mindful of this. There were times when, being exiled, and so therefore the judgment from others is very important. Being exiled meant, probably you were going to die out in the wilderness by yourself. But we are here. And I believe that the whole entire game was to build this thing, the Sims. Sims is a video game. The Sims, where we are just creating society. This is what we're here for, to get to this stage. And we are here. We got to take advantage of all that came before us. And this part of the game is one where so many of us can participate in the ways that we want to. But it's going to take some effort. And part of that effort means growing, and that is part of the game. We would seemingly, our body seems to be calling us and telling us to go out and chill and to lay in the bed and whatever and eat all the cakes and all that good stuff and feel good all the time. So one of the philosophies that ancient Greek philosophies that has become big these days is Stoicism. And Stoicism is all about discipline and being and rising above your base, quote, animal instinct. And then there was another one that I'd love to learn a little bit more about called hedonism, where, it's not as big. So it hasn't, perhaps it's because it's proven not to be right. I don't know enough about those who studied it to be able to say one way or another whether or not there are some things that they were some deeper things other than what it seems to be like is just pure pleasure at all times, like just maximizing your pleasure. And perhaps it was just that. Maybe that's why it's been proven wrong. But maybe there's some more depth to it. But like it's clear that that's the thing that's calling us. And in any game that you're playing, anything in which the easy thing is what you're doing is never necessarily the real challenge. And it just seems to me that, and I've said this multiple times before, like the kind of triumphs that we're looking for. In fact, let me talk about this real quick. I just saw the second part of Dune. I'm laughing because I'm thinking about what I'm about to say, which is the feeling that was evoked from the story of like when he take drinks. Ooh, this spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I got to think about what it is that I want to see if you haven't seen it. But so let me just say this. In order to avoid failure, like I got to the point where you're like you feel the like when he takes his place and he realizes his place and the folks are in there like, oh my God, this is essentially the person who's going to lead us to where we need to go. Like you feel that like the acting was done well, but the story is something that those sorts of stories, I mean, have been told from time indefinite, right? Like Homer and the Iliad of Greek lore, as they say. And there's many stories even prior to that in ancient Egypt that I know very little about, but I know what's the version, Osir and Osset, these sorts of otherwise known as Osiris and Isis. These stories have been told for time indefinite where people are like able to connect to the feeling of glory, to the feeling of getting to the part where you're significant, where you've done something big, where you've done something impactful, and people are looking at you and they're like, yes, you're the guy, or whatever the case may be. And I'm trying to not do any spoilers, but I watch the movie or any movie where, whether it's Rocky, where where you've gotten, or Braveheart, where you've done the hard, you've accomplished the goals. Like whenever you see and you're able to tap into that feeling, this, the Michael Jordans, the champions, those sorts of things, like it's easy to show it's easy to show the end, the accomplishment, the wins. It's easy to show those, but like nobody, and this is something that is, nowadays it's more and more, people talk about this more and more. They recognize this more and more, but like it's easy to show those high points, but no one is doing enough to show the low points, enough to show the Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality of always being in the gym and working it out, and no one is showing that, and it's not enough. And even in the movies, like they show struggle, but like we bypass that. We're talking about, for in this case is like 2 hours, 2.5 hours long, but like we're talking about a short movie where when they do show, like, let me do some montages of pain, of struggle, of training, even that looks good. To the back of music, you got Rocky running with this song in the background. Even that looks good. It doesn't seem like, the kind of pain that we actually face, the uncertainty, the the struggles with other folk, the struggles with trying to find people who are on your own journey, because a lot of times that's another thing. Like, I'll talk about this in consistency. That's a big piece of it. The struggle internally to consistently do the things that are right, getting up in the morning, doing the things that your body is like, I really don't know what this is. I have a fear of what's going to happen next, of, being ridiculed, of looking stupid, of, of not knowing what the heck I'm doing, and all of that pain, and, the struggles, the feeling of, lack of self-worth. Oh my God, am I really good? The failures over and over again, not knowing whether or not it's going to work. And, for many, it's like, okay, the need for financial means, and being able to put food on the table and all of those things. And we're not talking about weeks or months. We're talking years of, shit not working out. And there's just not enough emphasis. And I don't know that there is a way to do that other than to be like, other than to just, say that and talk about it all the time and be completely discouraging. Nobody comes in, saying, I want to go through this struggle. And so this is why, I want to go through this struggle. And this is why I'm going to go through it. Like who does that? Like people are looking for the results. Like in marketing, even they say, don't sell processes, sell the results, right? This is what motivates people to get going. But so few of us know exactly what it freaking takes. Will Smith was talking about that, too, about what it actually takes, like, to be great. Let's show that clip.
But if you good and you just wake up and be good, you're not gonna beat me. You're never gonna beat me if you're not if you're not doing 70-hour weeks on your craft, right? And it's like that is such a hard thing to communicate to people, and it's even more difficult when people are talented. When people get a B easy,
they think they got it.
They think they got it, and it's like, I'm telling you, it's like, it's not easy, but it is really simple to change your life. It's so simple, right? People don't realize that one bad night fucks up 10. You can't get drunk and fucking not work out on Saturday. You mess up 10 days. Like somebody else is getting past you in that time.
And so now back to consistency. I wanted to talk. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. So next week, depending on how the spirit moves me, I'm going to talk about insistence, the need for insistence. But this week, I was feeling the need because it was relevant to my life, to what's going on in my life, is to talk about consistency. And I had been pretty consistent, doing my podcast, getting up with my group of friends that I talk about all the time, on push. And so, we get up and get early up in the days and all that good stuff and get some things done. And it doesn't mean that I was necessarily, because we're early on. We're like, when I talk about years, like I was prepared for the years of struggle to get to where I was going. But like I said, like part of that struggle is, your finances. What are we going to do? So one of the things that I'm dealing with right now is I have 2 kids in freaking college right now. Well, one's about to be a sophomore. The other one is about to be a freshman in college. And we're talking about stupid, wild tuition costs that are just like now piling on. And myself and my wife, we have a business consulting firm. And so it now comes to the point of now trying to figure out exactly, how to consistently bring in the extra funds, like to raise our level of revenues, to raise our revenues. And so like a lot of that has impacted the way that I move personally, because I'm moving in a direction, initially I was moving in the direction of 11 kilometers per second. We own a business consulting firm called MBA Growth Partners. And so myself and my wife, we have to collaborate and make sure that we are doing our things right. And so with this new added pressure, we have to come together and say, okay, here's what's coming down the pipeline. What do we have to do to make sure that happens? We have to shift things around. We have to be, all hands on deck to make sure that we're keeping the boat afloat. And as a result, that means that the direction I was heading in, I have to figure out, I have to curb it a little bit, because, there's 24 hours in a day. There's, only so many resources that we can put towards any given thing. So as part of that, I had to shift some things around. I typically would get up at 4, do my little routines and everything like that. and, get to work on what I was doing. By the time 8 o'clock comes around, I could shift to MBA growth partners, all that good stuff. And, because of these sort of dynamics at play, I had to be like, all right, well, let me come together. Let me figure out when I can have time. I'm in the gym usually, and prior to this, I would go to the gym from like 7 to 9, and because I needed to have more time to hit our 8 o'clock meetings and just keep it moving, I had to now shift from trying to get to the gym at 4 to 6. There's some things that we do, talking about like a daily financial discussion, where like, okay, here's what's moving, here's what's coming in, all that good stuff, because we have to make sure that we're consistent with our own meetings in order to make that happen. And so I shifted that around, shifted my time 4 to 6, come back 6 to 7. I'm doing, financial discussions. 7 to 8, is when things start, and then we meet with our team, with the MBA Growth Partners team at 8 o'clock. And, what has happened as a result of that is that it's kind like it's shifted me in a way where my 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 direction is a little bit unstable. It's lost. It's like I'm not sure precisely what it is that I'm focusing on, because there's so many different things in the air. So because of that, it has impacted my consistency. Direction is a big piece of why people don't do what they need to do. Like, this is why thinking in, here's where I want to go is important. But like, if you don't feel like you have a sense of direction, you don't know whether or not you should get up and do one thing as compared to another. And so it has impacted my consistency. I wanted to, describe what situation I'm in so that you guys can see the types of things that people deal with. But what I do know is that there are certain things that I could have done and I decided not to do. Because of the lack of direction, I kind of like, I don't know if I really need to get up. So there were many a times when I wasn't getting up at the 4, like, gym, because that's such a bedrock of the things that I do. Like, even, on the days when I could get up, and because I'm not going to the gym, I could get up and do work, I'd be, the gym would bring me back on. In fact, there was a challenge from the push community to do at least 3 days a week of gym the entire second quarter. And that, the the incentive to do that was a potential punishment that those who did not make all 13 weeks, I believe it was 13 weeks. Yeah, 13 weeks of 3 days a week would have to buy the rest of the participants like Ruth Chris, like dinner. Like, you now have to go and pay a Ruth Chris dinner. So, thankfully for me, this wasn't necessarily something that was as heavy a lift as it could be for some folks, because I'm already in the habit of going to the gym. But I know that there were multiple times where I was like, I don't feel like, I don't know. I could take this week off. And there's been plenty of times. I think this is the only time, in fact, that I've done a whole 13 weeks straight of 3 a week. And actually, I have one more week left. But I've hit my 3 weeks last week. So once I do my 3 days last week, once I do my 3 days this week, I'll have accomplished this goal. And it just, that was a part of what was, adding up. And that's the thing, right? A lot of times, like, you think you have these, eureka, aha moments, but a lot of times it's just little pieces of different things that's happening to give you some kind of insight. And my consistently going to the gym and saying, wow, I've hit a new level. I've unlocked a new level where it's like, okay, it's not just this whole entire month. It's 3 entire months of consistency that, unlocked a pride, I want to say, but also a realization that, as Will Smith said, like, you can't be taking these days off. Like let me just tell you, I'm still struggling with this, but it's a realization now. Whereas before, I was like, it's you can be human. Like, who is this level of perfect? You like, it's okay to like drop and all that good stuff. And it is, to the extent that you should not beat yourself up if you don't do it. To the extent that you should give yourself grace and get back up and try it again. But it's not just try it. If this is what you're supposed to be doing, then that's what you're supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be every day. It's supposed to be all the time. It's supposed to be the hard stuff, and the hardest stuff is not being able to do it when you're motivated. The hardest stuff is not being able to do it when, a couple of days in, a couple of weeks in. The hardest stuff is day in and day out, whenever you really are like, oh, I do not want to do this again. Like, this is what creates greatness, and a lot of us may not necessarily want greatness. But then that is, from my perspective, like a key piece that you're missing, like the ability to get to that, what's that, Paul Atreides of Dune, the rocky level heights, where you have that kind of glory. The ability to do that does take greatness, and I think we all want to taste that. And that means the pains of consistently, I do not want to do this right now, and showing up every day. Like, part of why we are so, successful as far as school is concerned is we were forced to show up every day. When we're adults, we're like, okay, well, I don't know, this day, I don't know, whatever. But you got to show up every day, whether or not you want to do it. And that's what separates, those who are super successful from those who are not. Like, it's showing up every day, whether or not you feel like going in, whether or not you feel like, whether or not you're feeling like this, I feel like shit right now. And, that's a realization I've come to that I did not have before. Consistency. And I want to impress upon you who are listening, because I think this is where a lot of us, if you're listening to this podcast, a lot of us are here, right? There are some who are, mentally or philosophically, maybe, like, not in the space where they recognize that they need to learn, that they need to grow, that they need to go on this journey of growth mindset. That, what, I want to excel, I want to exceed. There are a lot of people who are like, I just want to party, for example, the hedonism thing, or I just not in the realm, like where I was even though I've always been, been ambitious and hardworking to a certain degree. I never understood the whole idea of growth mindset, and what was holding me back, the idea of fear and all that other stuff. And so there are some who are in that space, and then there are others who are like, all right, I'm about to go and start taking these steps because I want to get to my end goal. Wealth creation, generational wealth creation, achieving my potential, all of that. I'm here. I'm there. And then they get to, okay, I do it now and then I don't want to do it now. I do it now and I don't do it now. I do it here and there and everywhere, but I'm not consistent with it. And I think we think, well, they now, because I think differently, that's going to be sufficient to get you to that next level. And so what are some of the things too that I struggle with in terms of staying consistent? So I talked about, being directionless, but also, like, it's the people in your life too. The people in your life also are going to keep you from being consistent. There is, and that's why it's important. Like they say, the five people that you hang out with the most will tell you exactly who you are. You are the average of all these people. And so I don't remember who it was. He does a show called The Diary of the CEO. I have to find him too and put that in there, and see if I can find that clip. It might take me some time to do that, but it'll probably explain a little bit better than I am going to right now. He talks about how, there is a stage in your life where you are trying to become something different and someone different rather. And you are now in the middle of, like, you're in between where you are the place where you are going to end up being, or the person you're going to end up being. And so there's a group of people with which you will now be the average of, but you're not there yet, so you don't necessarily fit in. And then there is a group of people that you left, right? Or that you're leaving. No, you left. That's when you're in the middle, right? Like, you no longer hang out anymore. Like, these people are like the people you used to go drink with all the time, go out and party, go out and chase women or whatever it is that you do. Now you don't want to do that anymore. You're not out there in these streets anymore. And so you're stuck in the middle.
Would have been significantly less motivated to go and to be able to deal with the uncertainty of the lonely chapter. So I came up with this idea with Hormozy a couple of weeks ago called the lonely chapter. I fucking love it. So there is a period in everybody's journey where they are so different because they've started to do new things that they no longer fit in with their old set of friends, but they're not sufficiently developed that they've gained their new set of friends. And they're unsure. Should I go back? Should I lean back into getting a bag in with the boys on a weekend? Is that the highest, way that I can live my life passion forward? Because that's what everybody else does. And all of my friends are taking the piss. Oh, not drinking again. Too good for us, are we? Not going out again this week. Oh, okay. Well, enjoy staying in home and reading. Fucking nerd. So you're going to feel the pain of being ostracized from the group of friends that you used to have. But you're stuck in this messy middle where you haven't yet worked out who you are on the other side of this. And that lonely chapter that's in the middle is something that I would say almost nobody that I've ever met who has gone from a place where they are to a place where they want to be hasn't gone through.
And so that's a lonely phase, and so with respect to the times when you're about to try to get in the middle, because it's never as easy as, we just jump into the middle. Most of the time it's like, okay, we stop doing these things, but we're also either feeling guilty or we're like, damn, we want the companionship, we want the friendship, we want all of that. Who wants to be at home alone all the time and not doing anything and being lonely and all that good stuff? And especially if it's within your own home, right? Like, because, your significant other may not necessarily have the same ideas about what it takes, or have certain things that they're looking for and want and all that good stuff. And that may not be aligned with where you are trying to go. And so you are also trying to balance that. I'm trying to hang out still. Or what I like to say, because this is what I feel like I've experienced, is it's not even, it's like the trying to keep the party going, like trying to be entertaining, amusing, or not amusing, trying to keep the party going, trying to be entertaining, trying to be fun, because that's what your people are expecting from you, right? Like your friends, your significant other, they're expecting fun. Like, no, who wants to come in and just be sitting here in boredom and just let's talk about work all day. Let's talk about how we can go and do this shit that's hard. Like, that's not what rallies people, right? Even though sometimes you have to do that with folks, but like, that's not what, like what we want to do is get to the party. We want to get to the celebration of the wins, and especially if we're talking about friends, these are not people who came together to align to achieve some whatever goals that it is. It's like, hey, we come together to enjoy one another, to have fun. So therefore, let's go and have fun. And so if you are now trying to keep that fun going, hey, what's the next thing that we do? Oh, here's a travel thing that's happening right now. Or, your birthday's coming up. What are we doing for it? Oh, okay. Somebody's coming in town. Oh, okay. Are we going out? And all those other things. Those are the things that freaking throw you back. Because, in this inconsistency moment, what I can tell you is that whenever it is that, I go out, to try to hang out with friends or whatever the case may be, then here comes the drinking. All right. And the drinking comes, and now that definitely lowers my ability to my willpower, right? Because the drinking is in, and now it's like, all right, now let's do all the other things, like the food intake that I try to watch what goes into my body, that goes by the wayside. Now I'm eating all kinds of crap. The need to sleep on time so that I can get sufficient amount of sleep such that I'm up early enough and not dragging the whole day and making it even harder than it is. Like, all that goes by the wayside. So a lot of times I'm getting up because the alarm, and now I'm saying, okay, well, I need my sleep, so I'm going to stay in longer. Those are the types of things that impact you. And this is what I mean with what Will Smith said. Like, that one day, you can't afford that one day. You got to be consistent. That one day will throw you off for weeks. That one day will throw you off for weeks. If you want to be consistent, you have to constantly accumulate. It has to build on one another. You can't knock down the stack of cards that you're building, because now you have to start rebuilding all over again. Like, you had several floors of card stacking, pushed off. You have to start building all over again. And that's one of the other things that makes this difficult, is trying to keep the party going with friends, trying to, to live with the need of being with folks and having fun with folks and all that other stuff, and not necessarily having folks who are on the same page with you. And that's a difficult piece, but that is one where if you first recognize it, you can then take some affirmative steps to get around it. Like, starting your parties early. Like, one of the things that I started doing is, doing soda water in a glass that looks like there's, something actually happening within my cup, but then it's just water. And, you still feel that same, because of the routines of, drinking and talking, you still feel a certain, that same kind of buzz a little bit, as if you were drinking. And so these are some steps that once you recognize that, you can take to make sure that you're staying consistent. You don't have to go be an evangelist and be like, hey, here's what I'm doing and all that good stuff. You can just continue to do whatever it is that you're doing. And, eventually it's likely, like, if they're all hanging out if the party is starting at 11, you need to be up at 4. Eventually that's going to have to go by the wayside. But every once in a while, when you do partake, you can set some ground rules, some limitations that's going to allow you to be successful, that's going to allow you to remain consistent, that's going to allow the progress that you're making not to be in vain. Mike Tyson said, discipline is doing something you hate, but doing it as if you love it. And if you love something, you freaking do it. You're just go and do it over and over again. And this is why that, like, people will advise you, like, to find something you love, because if you love it enough, you'll want to keep doing it. But also, if you love it enough, you'll do the things that come with it that you hate doing, but you'll do it because of the love of the other thing that you have there. And that's why people advise that. But I would say that just just continue to keep doing it is a necessary part of becoming this next person that you have to become in order to be at the position that you want to be at. You have to become a different person. Your mindset has to change. Your what you can accept, the pains that you can accept have to change. The things that you find enjoyable now is going to change. That's because you're constantly doing something that you were not doing in the past, and that changes who you are, even if it's not necessarily ridiculous in terms of like the dramatic person that you are, but that's a different person that likes the things that you will eventually like and does the things that you eventually do. And so it's important that you understand that showing up is important. It not important. It's critical. It's the one thing that is needed if you're going to separate. And so the last thing I want to leave you with, I think another reason why I think this is the game, the stoicism is the truth in what it is that we are put here to do. There's a piece of the brain. Huberman, I think his first name is David, something Huberman. He has like a thing that he calls a David Goggin piece of. It's not he has it. There is a piece of the brain that he called the David Goggin something. I'll have to find that clip and show that to you. But essentially, it is where in which there's a part of the brain that strengthens every time you do something that you do not like. And he says that basically this is the will to live. In essence, it's like constantly showing up and doing something when you don't like. It grows only when you don't like. If you actually learn to like this thing, for whatever reason, it's like, oh, it's scary. And now it's like, this is the thing I love. It does not grow. But if every day when you show up and it's like, oh my God, this is dreadful, that is when that thing grows. Like that piece of the brain. He called it David Goggins because David Goggins is a guy who's like known for just going up and freaking doing the hard shit every day. Like that's his whole philosophy. It's not, oh, it gets better. That's what you're dealing with every day. The hard shit, the shit you don't want to do.
And I was so pumped because I've heard of the amygdala, fear, prefrontal cortex, it's planning and action. I could tell you every brain area and I teach neuroanatomy to medical students, but when I started seeing the data on the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, I was like, whoa, this is interesting.
Yep.
And all the data point to the fact that we can build this area up.
Yep.
But that as quickly as we build it up, if we don't continue to invest in things that are hard for us, that we don't want to do, that's the part that feels so Goggin-esque to me, that we don't want to do. Like if you love the ice bath, I love the ice bath, and you go from 1 minute to 10 minutes, guess what? Your anterior mid-cingulate cortex did not grow.
None.
But if you hate the cold water, if you're afraid of drowning and you get into water and put your head under, then your anterior and survive, then the anterior mid-cingulate cortex gets bigger.
And this is that little piece of the brain that's put in there. Someone somewhere, something put it in our brains and said, here's what you need to go do. That hard shit, that's what you need to go do if you want to live this life to the fullest. And so there it is. This is the brain. And that the hardest thing is to stay consistent, as far as I'm concerned, consistently doing the shit you don't want to do. So there, whatever it is that you have, whether you have direction or not, there are some things that you should be doing. Get your ass up and go do it. The fact that I didn't have direction did not mean that I didn't go to the gym. The fact that I did not have direction does not mean that I couldn't take my ass up and, meditate. Whatever it is that I have at that particular moment, this is why people create these morning routines. Sometimes you won't know what the fuck to do. And when you don't know what the fuck to do your morning routine. So that's it for this episode. Next week, we'll talk about insistence. And then, there are some things that you should be doing. And I want to go back to those things too, as far as business is concerned, at least. I mean, there's some things that you should be doing and in so many different realms. And those so many different realms is part of the reason why it makes it difficult to actually do. It's like, oh my God, I'm juggling so much. What do I do? But as far as business is concerned, and as far as I'm concerned, with what I was focusing on, or what I am focusing on, what you need to be focusing on in order to get the financial freedom that you deserve, there are some things that you need to be doing. And secret is marketing. But how do you do that? We'll get to that point in one of the episodes, so look out for it. But right now, just know that whatever it is that you know you should be doing, and you know there are some things that you should be doing, then be consistent with it. Get up every single day and figure out how to do the hard shit. All right? We'll chat soon. Bye.